Hello and welcome! Today I'm going to be sharing with you 10 life-saving tricks that help me a lot out in Procreate when I'm making artwork like this, and also animations like the one I'm drawing of myself right now. Yeah, thank you so much for watching and enjoy the video. When you create a custom canvas, on the left side you'll see an option for color profiles, and this is kind of like the spectrum of color that will be created within your canvas. RGB color profiles are geared towards screens like laptops and phones, whereas CMYK is geared towards the capabilities of a printer. So you may create an artwork in Display P3, for example, and it'll be super saturated and kind of violet, but when you print it, it won't look right. It'll be dark and orangey and So always make sure to copy and paste your RGB drawings into a canvas of the same size and pixel in CMYK and adjust it to make sure that the colors look as similar as you can get them before you print. Color palettes are super helpful and important to me, at least. I like to create color palettes whenever I'm doing an artwork in a series that has to look cohesive together, or if I'm wanting to save the skin tones and exact colors for a character that I'm working on. So you can go into your palettes, it's the far right option in your colors, and you can create custom palettes, and whichever one is set as the default will be at the bottom of your classic section, which is the one that I use the most. And if you want, you can color drop and just tap the squares and it will save the colors that you have put in there for that character or whatever it is you're making. You can also change your color in the color wheel and tap and it'll do the exact same thing. And the really cool thing about this is that whenever you create a custom palette, it is saved across all of your artworks. So if I were to go in and open a new artwork, you will see that not only is it still my default as the last one that I was using, but it's also still saved in my palettes for later use. Simplified Undo is a function in your app that combines actions that you've made, especially in layer transformations, so that when you hit the undo button, it undoes all of them. I just like to keep this off so that way I have more control over single actions that I've made in the app. I use drawing guides a lot, especially Drawing Assist. It's got this symmetry feature, so anytime, whenever you draw one eye and then the other one doesn't look right and you can't get it to work, well, if you have the line of symmetry, which you can adjust, you can create a drawing assisted layer, and anything you draw on one side of the line will be mirrored exactly on the other. It's super helpful, especially when you're doing faces, and there are a lot of other features in Drawing Assist as well. Though Procreate comes with a wide range of brushes inside the app automatically, sometimes you might want to try something new, and you can go on Google and just search for free Procreate brush sets, and there are a ton out there, as well as tutorials on how to download them, and it's really easy, and some artists even create custom brush sets that you can buy to create art like they do. One of my favorite things about digital art is the fact that you can create big changes to your drawing without having to start over or plan them from the start. If you use this tool right here, you can highlight certain areas and you can do it in different shapes, you can do it in straight lines. There are so many options of how to select parts of the canvas, but you can just choose which layer you want it to be selected in. And then there's this section called Liquify, and it is amazing. You can adjust so much. You can make somebody's nose bigger, smaller, turn it, do all kinds of stuff, and it's just, I love it so much. And you can also, if you have a specific part of a layer that you want duplicated or to use in another layer, you can select it and then use the copy and paste function, and look, it's in a whole other layer, but it's copied, it's not cut and paste. It's amazing, and you can change that as you please. That looks so weird looking back at that. Wow, okay. Wow, okay. One thing that I really like to do is when I make a big change in a canvas, I will duplicate the layer that I'm making the change on and then make the one underneath it invisible. It's just like insurance for whatever you're doing. It serves as an undo button, but in massive proportion. Like if I were to completely redo half of her face and I wasn't sure how it was going to look or anything like that, I could create the double layer and then whenever I finish, I can look at it and say, do I like this, do I not? And if I don't, I can just delete it and I still have my layer there, and I don't have to start from scratch, and I don't mess it up or have to hit the undo button 1,000 times, because sometimes you're creating a lot of complicated stuff or something that requires a lot of brush strokes. So say I didn't like the little hearts, you just delete it and then make that layer visible again, and woohoo, it's back to how it was before. If you put in a canvas the layers as frames for an animation, you can export them as an animated file that automatically combines them into something cute like this. I mean, look at that, it's so adorable. You can change the frames per second, and you can also export as a web-ready version, which is a lot easier for Instagram or Twitter. I just love this. It's a new thing that Procreate has put out lately, and it's so cute, and there are so many projects I'm going to do with it. I kid you not, this is something that I just found recently, and I've been using Procreate for 4 years. I've just always been so scared of clipping masks, but they're so easy. Basically, a clipping mask is it's exactly that, it's a mask. So if you see that I'm making a silhouette here, anything that I create in this second layer, as long as I label it as a clipping mask, will only draw on top of where I've made marks on the layer below. So if I were to draw in the white space, it doesn't show up, but if I draw in the black, it will show up. So as you can see, this is super helpful, especially when you are shading two-dimensional objects, or if you are doing somebody's face and you don't want to accidentally go over into their hair or anything like that. It's so helpful, and it's so easy to use. I don't know why I didn't do this for years. I just tried to stay inside the lines, and I'm terrible at coloring in the lines. So anyway, I drew a little cactus. Hope you don't mind. Anyway, it's super helpful, and when you look at the layer that's above it, you can see how messy I was, and it's just so fast and so much easier, and you can create such cute little things like this, and it's so much easier than it ever was before. See how unsaturated this is? And then see how saturated it is? Saturated skin tones tend to look more lifelike and just more pretty, and it makes your face or whatever you're drawing look less dirty, you know? There are exceptions to the rule, of course. There are a lot of times where you use low intensity colors for a purpose, but in the case of skin tones, I try to make sure that I only go to the right of the middle of the spectrum there, and the only time that I use anything that's kind of the middle and to the left is whenever I'm using highlights at the very top, because in that case you can think of it as only mixing in white, whereas if you're using it in the middle, you see it mixes in gray, and it just doesn't create as vibrant of skin tones. Obviously, this is kind of a preference. A lot of people can create different things, but somebody commented this on my TikTok post one time, and I was like, whoa, this is genius. And since I've started doing this, my portraits look so much better, especially in the shadows. Use a lot of saturation. I upload on Sundays and Thursdays, and possibly more in the future, so if you want, you can follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, any of those. I have a huge project coming out next Sunday, and I'm really excited for it, so if you want, you can subscribe and you will see that on here. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.